What's up, everybody? It's your boy Manny here, and welcome back to the Hoop Report, the NAIA Women's Basketball Podcast, episode number 64. Like I told y'all before, we're going to keep going with these Sweet 16 previews, picking up where we left off yesterday. I told y'all I'm recording this all in one sitting, but wanted to split it up so you guys aren't too bombarded with me just talking y'all ears off going into today's now Sweet 16 matchups. We did the first four, the first the first half of Sweet 16 matchups. Like I said, we're doing this in order of the games I'm most excited to watch. The number one game that I'm most excited to watch is Lindsey Wilson versus Dakota Wesleyan. Then after that, we went Hastings, St. Francis of Indiana, then Georgetown, Freed-Hardeman, and the last game that we previewed yesterday was Campbellsville versus Spring Arbor. We're going to pick it up with number one Bethel versus number 4 LC State, Lewis-Clarke State, Mid-South versus Cascade matchup here. Top tier talent is what is going to be in this one. And don't get me wrong, every one of these games has top tier talent, but I was looking at the storylines. Some of them, specific stats, specific, strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. But this game, to be honest with y'all, it ain't the highest seed matchup against a 1-4, but it's typical in this part of the tournament. But it got some dogs, y'all. This game includes 7 all-conference members, the Mid-South Player of the Year, 7 players averaging over 10-plus points per game. We're going to see some of the best one-on-one matchups in the tournament, y'all. I'm telling you, Micah Hart versus Citra Bird, Mikey Buchanan versus Peyton Himes, Madison Hart versus Darren Herring, MJ Simmons versus Kendall Wallace. It is going to be a who's who of some of the best in players that have come from some of the best conferences in the NAIA. Talking about, I would probably say two of the top 3 this year. 2 of the top 3, 2 of the top 4 for sure. So I'm very excited to talk about this. In a game like this, I think it just comes down to your best players. And that's what I'm going to focus on when it comes to this matchup. I'm not going to touch too much on like the team aspect. Both these teams are legit. Both the teams are well coached. Both of these teams are absolutely impressive and can win red banners. I'll give LC State a little more credit because when I did my predictions on tournament conferences that I felt like would have a certain number of teams left, I had Cascade with 1 team left. I didn't think it was going to be Lewis-Clarke State, though. I hand up. I was wrong. Props to the Warriors. Obviously, they made it to the Cascade Tournament Championship game. They lost, but they made it that far. I give them credit. I give them credit for sure. So that's my biggest kind of individual team or big team takeaway. From an individual standpoint, like I said, I'm looking at the 2 best players on each team right now. Micah Hart versus Citra Bird. The head-to-head matchup, I believe, is what's going to happen here. Both players are going to be able to just show why they are, in Micah's case, the best player in the Mid-South this past year, and in Bird's case, one of the best players in the Cascade. I'd argue top 3 for sure. For Micah, going off the season, and again, not talk too much about the season, but got to give him props because, again, talking about a season-long campaign of being the best player in her case in her respective conference. 18.4 points per game, 50% from the field, 37% from 39% from the three-point line, 88% from the free throw line. She's shooting 50, almost 40. Almost 90% right now from the 3 splits, 6 rebounds per game as well. In the tournament specifically, she's putting up 19 points per game, 7 rebounds, 50% from the field, 92% from the free throw line, 6.5 rebounds, like I said, and then 3 steals. And then in Bird's case, she was a first-team all-conference player. In the season, she had 14 points per game, 49% from the field, 42% from the three-point line, 70% from the free throw line, 7 rebounds. And in the tournament, she's averaging a double-double at 20 and 16 with 3 assists and 3 steals. These 2 leaders are what's going to make this engine go. And again, I could talk about any one of these matchups. Again, Buchanan versus Himes, Madison Hart versus Darren Herring, MJ Simmons versus Kendall Wallace. There's a lot of different ways I can go about this. And I do believe it's going to come down to, can these players win their individual matchups? I believe these teams have plenty of depth. I believe these teams have plenty of very, very minute strengths that would help them win the game. But you're playing against a team that's just like that. I could argue we're looking at, two teams that feel very similar with each other. So it comes down to your best players. I talked about it in the last episode where we're at the point of the tournament now. Moving forward, Sweet 16, Big 8, Fab 4, Final 2, it is about your best players. None of these teams got to this point by just having a really, really good team, an elite team. No, you need to have a Micah Hart. You need to have a Citra Bird. You need to have Abby McNally, a Macy Sievers, Tabor Teal. The list goes on and on. Every single one of these teams has at least one player that you can point to and say, she is going to be the reason that we win or lose this game if it's close. As a coach, you always want to live and die by your best players' decisions. And that's what I believe the coaches in this game are going to do. That's what I believe the team in this game are going to do. And they all know it. There's no secret on who the ball, if it was a close game and Bethel had the ball late, no one's wondering where the ball's going. And same thing for Lewis and Clark State. No one wonders where the ball's going. So it comes down to these two ladies just flat out having the better individual game. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to, the pressure of the game is going to be on their shoulders. No, what I'm saying is they are the tipping point. They are the needle, one way or another, for who wins this basketball game. I'm going Bethel. And I do believe it's because Micah Hart has a masterclass of a performance. She did have, I believe, a 30-point game already this tournament, the beginning, the first round, kind of opening it all the way with a big push. And let's not forget, this Bethel team did go very far last year. They went to the Fab Four. They were there. They had a magical run at the end of the season, going from the 5th seed in the Mid-South, number 1 overall in their quad, to, like I said, the Fab Four. So I feel like that has set them up very, very well. And obviously my Fab Four are out, and I do not have them going in there. But if they were to make it, trust me, they were the last team that I had to pick. It was between them and Dakota Wesleyan, obviously, and I went with the Tigers for certain reasons. But it was not an easy pick. Almost went to a coin toss, and I'll pick whichever one. Both those teams make it to the Big Eight. I have no problem, maybe switching it up. I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to stick with my picks all the way through, but it's tough. It's tough. So I am going to go Bethel because I do feel like Micah Hart is going to edge out Citra Bird, but I would not be surprised if Lewis and Clark State pulled off the upset. I think this might be, I know we posted the numbers from that ChatGPT gave in terms of upsets, all that kind of stuff, but this was the most upset, alert game I have. And I know it's in the middle of the pack in terms of excitement because I just feel like obviously Lindsey Wilson and Dakota Wesleyan, I think that's going to be a better team matchup. We're going to see some really good basketball there. Then you've got Hastings and St. Francis. Enough said, obviously. And I judge the excitement by how much of a chance am I giving the lower seed to win? Giving Hastings a pretty high seed. In that first game, Dakota Wesleyan's lower seed, yes, but it ain't really lower seed. I just like good I like the basketball I'm going to watch in that game. Hastings, like I talked about. Obviously, we talked about then Freed Hardeman and Georgetown. I don't give Georgetown a lot, but there's a good little chance there. There's a good little chance, good little storyline there. And then obviously Spring Arbor, I do give a really good chance. Obviously, I picked them to win that game. So in this in the middle because I could see it going both ways. It's a 50-50 shot. It's a 50-50 shot, and it comes down to the best players on either team playing like that. Who wins their individual matchup, and by how much, I think is a deciding factor. I'm going Bethel for that reason. Next one, another rematch, our other rematch of the Sweet 16. Number 1, Dordt versus number 4, MidAmerica Nazarene out of the Kramer quad. Regular season matchup went to Dordt. We only played one time. Back in November. Dordt won 64-48. In that game, the defenders shot 42% from the field, 33% from the three-point line, 6 of 18, 73% from the free throw line, 8 of 11, 46 rebounds, 15 fouls, 18 assists, 15 turnovers, 11 steals, 40 paint points, 15 points off turnovers. For the Pioneers, they went 30% from the field, 25 from the three-point line, they were 5 of 20, 58% from the free throw line, 7 of 12, 33 rebounds, 9 fouls, 14 assists, 14 turnovers, 5 steals, 33 paint points, 8 points off turnovers. The offense was very consistent in this game for the Pioneers. And I'm going to talk about this from the Pioneer side of things because, spoiler alert, I do have the Dordt defenders winning this game, and I do believe that is going to be a safe bet. But when looking at it from the Pioneer side, that game that was their last loss of the season so far. Like there's something poetic about this. For MidAmerica Nazarene, they have to beat the last team that they lost to continue their season forward. Again, a little symbolic, a little poetic or something about that. The offense that night was very inconsistent. This was the quarter scoring in terms of that game. First quarter, 13-23 in favor of Dordt. Second quarter, 9 of 15 in favor of Dordt. Third quarter, 20-21 in favor of Dordt. And then fourth quarter, 6-5 in favor of MidAmerica Nazarene. My initial take, you cannot go less than 10 points. Forget that. Less than 12 points. 15 points even against the Dordt defenders once, let alone twice. It ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. Now, again, this MidAmerica Nazarene team is a lot different. This MidAmerica Nazarene team has really been on an uptick since then. They have run through the heart. They were the best team in the heart all year pretty much. Even when Grandview got them, even when this and that Benedictine kind of threw their hat in the ring, it was always the Pioneers at the top of the pack. This game was probably their last low point of the season. I mean, this was their third lowest scoring game of the season. So it's been a long time since then. In the national tournament, though, we talked about the Dordt defenders, obviously, in the first episode of this week on Tuesday. Don't really want to touch too much more onto it. Obviously, you guys can go back and listen to that one. But basically, all I said was their offense is otherworldly, 102 points per game. The only other two teams that are even over 100 are Hastings right now and Dakota State. And their opponents are scoring the lowest in terms of any number one seed, 50.5 points per game. Very impressive. Not much needs to be said. For MidAmerica Nazarene, there is one specific stat, and it's the main reason I'm going for the Dordt defenders. Depth. And what I say by depth, the number 7. Why is the number 7 very important? The Pioneers in their last 4 games, including the tournaments, have not played more than 7 players. Now, we reached that point of the year where 7 is probably a good number to have. And I agree. You know, in a perfect world, yeah, you can go 5-5. Everybody plays. Everybody's happy with their minutes, whatever the case is. It ain't realistic. We all know that. But there's one thing, if you got to do it here and there, you got to do it, maybe 2 games in a row. 3 games, 4 games in a row in the national tournament. And we're talking about the first 2 rounds. I'm not talking about them doing in the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and now you're in the Fab 4. And no, it was the first 2 rounds, and you had to do it there. That's interesting, right? So you look at it, and I wonder, can they do that again against the defenders? Mind you, they did that in the fall when they played them. They only played 7. And I looked through, and there were a lot of games that happened. And obviously, every coach has a rotation, and every team has their style. And I'm not banking on, and I'm not saying it's a bad style. All I'm saying is, in this matchup, I don't know if it's going to be the best thing. And that's why I'm going against the Pioneers and going for the defenders, because the strength in numbers is a legit thing. You know what I'm saying? This MidAmerica Nazarene team is a 4 seed for a reason, the Kramer quadrant. They're in the Sweet 16 for a reason. They are, again, the Hart regular season and tournament champions for a reason. With that being said, you're running into the number 1 team in the country for the past 2 years. A team that seems very, very bent on getting that dynasty, raising another banner, being the bar for the NAIA women's basketball world, and going on one of the greatest runs I've ever seen. I don't know if 7 players are going to get it done. With that being said, there is a specific duo matchup that I'm looking at here. For the MidAmerica Nazarene Pioneers, it's Cameron Green, who is obviously our player of the pod from the MidAmerica pod, and Zaylee Worth. On the Dordt side, obviously Macy Sievers and Gracie Schuhoven. The Pioneers duo is averaging 33 points per game, 23 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Defenders duo is averaging 40 points per game, 10 rebounds, 14 assists. They're averaging a triple-double with them combined. Obviously, these are national tournament games, not season games. The other reason I'm going with the Defenders, because we're talking about the duo specifically. The Pioneers duo, great job at scoring, great job at controlling the rebound battle, which I think is always going to be important. But the assist numbers is what I'm looking at here. Because Macy Sievers and Gracie Schuhoven are doing an absolutely phenomenal job at keeping the offense flowing and getting everybody involved. And I'm not saying 8 assists for the Pioneers duo is bad, but almost double that for the Dordt Defenders duo, that's what makes it elite. That's what makes it very tough to guard. Where now you're telling me that the 2 people who are walking 40 points are also getting you an extra 14 points if you want to go one point per assist, 28 points if you want to go 2 points per assist, and 36 points? I want to say that is 32 points, excuse me. 42 points. Sorry, y'all. 42 points for, if you want to count them all as threes and mix and match whatever you want, but at least 14 points. It's an extra 14 points to go on top of their 40. That's 44 points that they are worth right now. And that's not counting in rebounds, extra efforts, those type of hustle points that are going to obviously make that 44 or that 54, feel like 60, 65, whatever it is. Right? So I just feel like the Defenders duo is much more well-rounded in terms of getting others involved. If the duo of the MidAmerica Nazarene team does that, though, now we're looking a little interesting. A little more interesting here, but I do believe the Dordt Defenders are going to come out in this one and get the win, because I don't know if the Pioneers have the depth, and I don't know if the duos, if the duo from an assist and playmaking standpoint for the Pioneers is going to be able to at least match what the Defenders duo is going to be doing on every single time they step out on that court, no matter what. That is what they do. So I'm going to go with Defenders in this one. Last two games here. Dakota State versus Indiana Wesleyan, heading back up to the Naismith, and then Shawnee State versus Marian in the Liston. For Dakota State versus Indiana Wesleyan, it's a very interesting matchup here, and I'm going to stick with the same angle that I picked or that I talked about in the Tuesday's episode for this week, where we talked about the top three teams, my top three teams out of the opening round, and Indiana Wesleyan was one of the three teams. I'm not going to harp on them too much because I already have talked about them enough, and you guys can go back to our Tuesday episode and catch that. Biggest thing, the reason I picked against Indiana Wesleyan in favor of Cumberland's in the first round was experience. But at the same time, I also knew experience only matters later into the tournament. At the beginning, when everybody's excited, the energy is good, the vibes are great, you want to actually have the youngsters, because the youngsters, they don't know better. They're just going out there playing, and they're excited to be there for the first time. Enter Aliyah Krager, who had a 30-point performance. Very, very much the future of Wildcat women's basketball, because she is going to be a matchup problem as she continues to get older, gets more experience. Ridiculous potential for her. Second round, Rio Grande. Very much inexperienced as well. Again, in terms of the program, very much new team, all that kind of stuff. I was going with the Red Storm, obviously. Enter a very much experienced outside of the top two players for the Wildcats, the rest of the rotation coming in and being the ones that really were able to push it forward. Specifically in that game, I believe it was Emma McGatley, who was the leading scorer, 29 points off the bench. Emily was absolutely ridiculous in that game. And mind you, even though Krager did get fouled out in that game, only played 22 minutes, basically a quarter in 2 minutes, he still had 19 points and 6 rebounds or 5 rebounds in those 22 minutes. So still efficient, aside from the fouls, obviously. And that was my thing for the Wildcats. They were just inexperienced against two, for the most part, experienced teams, or at least experienced programs. Now they're here. But they're running into a team in Dakota State who experiences what they do, especially their best player. Because my thing is, looking at the numbers, Indiana Wesleyan, 6 out of their 11 rotation players are upperclassmen, but their leading scorers are both freshmen. That is Krager, obviously, and Addie Huggy. Dakota State, 6 of their 10 rotation players. Now, for me, a rotation player means you play at least a quarter. So if you're playing 10 or more minutes, you are considered, to me, a rotation player. 6 of the 10 rotation players for them are also upperclassmen, but their leading scorers are upperclassmen, right? Of course, Tabor Teal. We're going to talk about her in a minute here. Statistically, Dakota Wesleyan is the highest points averaging team in the tournament so far. They're 103 points per game right now. Very, very impressive. They played Grandview. Really dominant performance. I can't state that enough. And then they played Bethel of Kansas. Very good win for them against a team that talent-wise I think was going to be a matchup problem, but it obviously wasn't. They seem to be like world beaters, Joe. Like offensively, they seem to be just on another level. I've said, for me it was Hastings, who I just felt different about. Dakota State, just on the number standpoint, they are the best offensively so far in the tournament. 51 field goal percentage, 41 3-point percentage, 18 free throw attempts, 24 assists. They're doing it as a collective unit. 47 rebounds, really 48. 16 offensive rebounds, 17 steals. They're forcing 26 turnovers. Check, check, check. Every single box has at least 2 check marks next to it. Tabor Teal is probably the most experienced player on the court in this game from either side of the ball. From either side of the team, I should say. All-American. Going to go down to one of the best in Dakota State history. The list goes on and on. Like I could do a whole episode on just her. Krager is going to give her some fits. I honestly feel like those two are going to cancel each other out to some degree. And what I mean by that is, if Krager has 30, Tabor's going to at least have 25. You know what I'm saying? If Tabor has 25, Krager's going to have at least 20. Like, I just feel like something like that. I feel there are a lot of similarities from the Wildcat side of things to their first round matchup against Cummins of Tennessee, of Kentucky, where Krager had 30, Joy Kendrick, she had 25. Kind of canceled it out. Now, the depth has been the biggest thing for the Wildcats because the depth have really helped them. They are averaging about 40 points per game from outside the rotation, meaning everybody but Krager. So you take her numbers out, they're averaging about 40 or so points per game. That's going to be very important. And I'll get to that in a moment here. And what I mean by that is where I'm looking at from a key player, key matchup. It's not Krager, not necessarily the depth, Addie Hovey for the Wildcats and Caitlin Dyer for the Trojans. I'm going to start with Hovey. She's the second leading scorer on this team. She's averaging just over 10 points per game right now. Before the last 4 games, including the 2 in the tournament, well, 2 in each tournament, the Crossroads and the national tournament, she was at about 11.1 points per game. Since then, she's averaged just under 6 points at 5.8. She's clearly in a little bit of a slump. Now, 2 of those games are like 9-point games, right? So it's not bad, but a little bit of a slump. She's had 10-plus points 14 times this season, 20-plus points 3 times this season. She is due for a game. She's due for a big one. I don't know if it's going to happen, but she's due for one. If it's not here, it might be the next round. And if they keep going, the longer that the Wildcats stay alive, the higher chance that that's the game that Addie comes alive. She's going to give you one. She's going to give you one. So that's where my focus is for the Wildcats. I think Craig is going to have a great night. She's proven that she can be, like, this is nothing new for her. This is what she does. Get only a freshman. We've seen other players step up for the Wildcats in the tournament so far. Get only 2 games, but still, other players have stepped up. Hovey has not been one of them. And I watched the Wildcats play against the Indiana Tech Warriors where every other play felt like Addie Hovey made a big shot, had a big and one, made a big play, whatever. I've seen her play live. I've seen so many different things that I just know she's going to respond. I just don't know if it's going to be in this game. And it's a hard game to respond in against the Dakota State Trojans team. On the other side of it, for the Trojans, Caitlin Dyer. In the national tournament alone, 16.5 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 78% from the field, 50% from the three-point line. Tay Bird's going to do what she does. If Dyer comes in and does what she's been doing, which is a lot more, expectable, that's probably not a word, but I'm going to rock with it. That is something I can expect a little bit more than Hovey right now from an experience standpoint, from a number standpoint, from a average in the past 2-3 weeks standpoint. That's why I'm going to Dakota State. I trust the top-end talent, meaning the top leading scorers for both teams. I trust them to be able to do what they do. I can pen them in for at least 20 and about 5. The next player that I'm most confident in either team is Caitlin Dyer. And I would argue there's probably at least 2 or 3 more Trojans that I'm more comfortable in before I get to Addie Hovey. And I feel like, yes, you had Emily, who had a really good game in the second round against Rio Grande. And I understand that. And I'm not taking anything away from what Emily did. But at the same time, I still like the depth from the Dakota State side of things a lot more. I just like it a lot more. So I'm going with the Trojans in this one. Keep an eye, though, on Addie Hovey. Something about it says the scriptwriters are writing something up. Rough first 2 rounds. The team still finds a way. You're still going to be the underdogs in this one. You're definitely on the road, not that far off, but you're definitely on the road in hostile environment. This is movie stuff. This is stuff that, they write better in the movies. Let's see what the freshman does. Not putting pressure on her, but I do believe if she has 15 or more points, I won't be surprised if we have maybe the upset of the tournament. Maybe the upset of the tournament. Last team that I'm going to talk about here, last game I should say, and then I will send y'all off into the Sweet 16. Great games being played today. The first game's going to be 1 p.m. Central Time. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, for any of those who are wondering. All on Urban Edge Network, of course. Number 12, Shawnee State versus number 1, Marian. I told y'all that I've ordered these in order from most excited to least excited. So, and in terms of that, by excitement, I mean upset potential, close game potential. First game, Lindsey Wilson and Dakota Wesleyan. Really close game. I expect that. Hastings, St. Francis, look at the upset there. Georgetown, Freed-Hardeman, both upset and probably a close game. Campbellsville, Spring Arbor, more on the upset side of things. I think this will be a good game, but that's on the upset side. Bethel, Lewis-Clarke State. I think it's going to be a really good game. Really good game. Talked about just now, obviously, Dakota Wesleyan. Before them, Dordt and MidAmerica Nazarene. More so, I feel like Dordt's going to handle business. I just don't see the upset really brewing there. Same thing for Dakota State, Indiana, and Wesleyan. Marian, Shawnee State is the most predictable game out of these 8. Something against Shawnee State, but my notes really just say, can the Bears do it again? Can we have a magical run? Like, this is a Cinderella run. They were this year's Cinderella team. They were. If you are 11 or below, if you're 10 or below, and you get to the Sweet 16, Cinderella run. I don't care what your name is, what program you're with. Cinderella run. If you're 9 to 6, you got to get to at least the Big 8. Then we can talk about that. And in Final Four, if you're a 4 seed, then I can consider you a Cinderella team. So still some teams brewing out there, but Shawnee State has been the Cinderella team so far for the lower seeds. And Hastings, but Shawnee State is the lowest one. I talked about Marian. They were my second most dominant number 1 seed. And on Tuesday's episode, when we're talking about the numbers, 57 opponents' points per game, 83 points per game, all these numbers, you can all go check them back out. 26, 27 forced turnovers so far, 16 of them are steals. Like, I watched that Columbia Cougars game that they played, just unreal defensive stuff. For Shawnee State, and again, talked a little bit about them. Both these teams I did talk about in Tuesday's episode, because Shawnee State was one of my 3 teams that I was like, keep an eye on the Bears. Keep an eye on the Bears because of what they've been able to do offensively. 36 paint points, 21 bench points, 13 turnovers, and all these great numbers. The key play, and this is all Shawnee State. Like, we can all agree here, Marian's supposed to win this game. Like, it's not a hot take, not being disrespectful to the Bears. Marian's supposed to win this game. The numbers say that. The experts say that. Everything says that. So I'm talking everything from this point on will be about the Bears. How can the Bears pull off what would be the biggest upset of the tournament period? The first 1 seed to go down. It's more of the same. 3 players that I feel like the Bears need to focus on. I'll go from the third to the first. The third one, Kyla Torg. Second one, Lakin Williams. The first one, of course, is our player of the pod, Miyoshi Ellis. Those 3 ladies all have had different parts to do with this run. For Torg, only averaging about 20 minutes per game, so pretty much playing half the game. In that half the game, she's putting up 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks, 3 steals. Fouled out in the first game, though, with 23 minutes. So that could have gone a little bit higher. The average could be a little higher. The reason I point to her, defense. She's averaging 2 blocks and 3 steals per game in the first 2 games. When you're playing against Marian's they're not like a clean team. Like, they're not going to not turn the ball over. But you got to force them into some turnovers, and you got to try and get as many as possible. Even if you get 4 steals, 4 to 5 steals, you need that. And the blocks are what I'm more so talking about from a defense side of things. You need to take care of the paint. Specifically, the name Abby McNally has to be the focus here. If Abby goes off for 30 and she's shooting 3s and jumpers, you live with it. Talked about oh my God, I'm blanking on her name from last episode. Talking about let me go back to my notes. Professional scorers throughout this tournament. Jenna Satterley, that's who it was. Professional scorer. Jenna Satterley, Tabor Teal. I can probably go 1 per team, honestly. Abby McNally is in that group. You're not going to hold her to 0 points. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can hold her to a low shooting percentage night, which is what I think the focus is, and or hold her to minimum paint and free throw attempts. You have to make sure that she sees body after body, and you have to make sure she is scoring over wall-ups and over contests. She cannot get whatever she wants on the block, on the high post. She can't. She can't get anything in that paint. If she gets anything in that paint, it's going to be a bucket plus a foul probably. So y'all have to understand that. And I believe Torg is probably going to get the assignment of her. That's my guess. Not really putting any thought into it. That's just what I feel like is going to be what happened. For Williams, she's averaging 32 minutes per game, so pretty much playing the whole game, but 8 minutes. 12 points per game, 6 rebounds, 33% from the field. The reason I talk about her, she needs to be the second best scorer on this team. She has to. She's got to give me not just 12. She got to give me closer to 20. I need over 15 at least. She's not going to be able She has to have a good scoring night for them to have a chance offensively, because I do believe, again, Marian is better than Shawnee State in every statistical category. On paper, this should not be a contest. That's why we don't play basketball on paper, y'all. Which leads me to Ellis. Maybe the player of the tournament so far. Maybe. Definitely, taking the tournament by storm. 40 minutes per game. She is averaging 40 minutes per game. She hasn't come out. I know one game she played 40 minutes. The other game she played 39 minutes. She hasn't come out. She's putting up 14 points per game, 10 assists, 5 rebounds. She is filling up the stat sheet. And she has to do it again, y'all. She has to. She had almost a 20-10 game, 10 assists. In their last game, she missed it by 1 assist. She had a double-double in the first game, 20 and 10. And I don't even think it's a situation where it's do or die. It's all on her. But she is the head of the snake. She is the bear in this group right now that is the spark of everything, especially offensively. I will never forget the first time I ever saw her play. During the season, I was tuning into their game versus Southeastern. It was during the holiday break. They were playing at Weber. It was a neutral site. And I was watching the game. I thought to myself, this girl's a scorer. She can hoop. Later on, went back to watch some film. The play that just stuck with me, late in the shot clock. Remember, Shawnee State did win that game by 2 points. Late in the shot clock, Southeastern's playing great defense. Ellis looks for the ball, finally gets it, maybe 5 to 3 seconds left on the clock. Tween, sidestep 3, about the left slot area on the 3-point line. Cashed it. I said, oh, no. That's a tough bucket. And so from that point on, kind of kept an eye on her. Open the tournament, what does she do? She's going ballistic. There is a world where she has another out-of-body experience in this game. Am I picking Shawnee State? No. Do I think Shawnee State has a red banner run in them? No. But I do believe will happen. One more magical run. It's in them. And I'll be locked into this game. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The Bears should not win this game. They have overachieved in the biggest sense. They are the last River State's team standing. They have had a great season all year. They've made a run that is going to be remembered for program in the program. They're setting themselves up for next year, like all stuff. This is, to me, their finals. They win this game. If they're the first team to knock off a 1 seed, they're the first double figure seed team to knock off a 1 seed. Mind you, there's 3. There's 3 left. Indiana Wesleyan was the 10 seed. Hastings is the 11 seed. And then Shawnee is the 12th. If they are the one to do it, and they do it against Marian, who a lot of people are picking to be the team to finally, end the Dordt's streak. Obviously, I went Freed Hardeman, but people are picking Marian. They like Marian. The numbers love Marian. And I get it, because the numbers don't lie. But we don't play basketball by numbers. 40 minutes. That is all it takes. That is all it's going to take. This is my least excited game because I do feel the outcome is predictable. But I will also say this is my most exciting game for the unpredictability. Because while the odds of Marian getting upset are very low, at the same time, the flip side of if it does happen or if it gets closer to happening, y'all know what I say. First 38 minutes matter a lot. If you can't blow it away, if you can't open it up by more than 5 going to the last 2 minutes of the game, someone like Ellis is the last person you want to see on the other side of that ball. I'm going Marian, but this might be the game I'm most locked into, at least for the first quarter. What happens in that first quarter? The first quarter is going to tell me everything I need to know. The first quarter and third quarter tell me everything I need to know. The first 3 minutes of both quarters. How does Shawnee State come out from the get-go? And how do they come out of the halftime break? Whether they're winning, whether they're losing, whether it's tied, whatever the case is. How do they do that in those 2 games? And those 2 quarters will determine a lot. I'm locked in from a fan standpoint. Forget the basketball. I just want to see it. I just want to see it. This is why we love March Mayhem. I want to see it. I want to see the madness happen. So I'm going to be tuned into that one. I'm going to be really excited to watch it and see how it unfolds. But just to recap, all my picks, we'll start from the bottom up. I have Marian over Shawnee State. I've got Dakota State over Indiana Wesleyan. I've got Dordt over MidAmerica Nazarene. I've got Bethel over LC State. I've got Spring Arbor over Campbellsville. I got Freed-Hardeman over Georgetown. I got Broncos over Cougars. And the final one, I have Dakota Wesleyan over the Blue Raiders of Lindsey Wilson. Going to give you all the quick breakdown of the schedule while I have y'all before I send y'all off into the rest of the day. So first game on deck for today, Thursday, is going to be the Freed-Hardeman Lions, versus the Georgetown Tigers. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Central Time. That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern. Then the next game will be 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, Dakota State versus Indiana Wesleyan. That would be the Naismith quadrant. And then we're going to have at 6 p.m., it'll be Dordt versus MidAmerica Nazarene. And then 8 p.m., both those time centrals. Eastern time will be 7 and 9. It'll be Hastings and St. Francis of Indiana. For the next slate of games tomorrow, Friday, it would be Bethel versus LC State at 11 a.m. Central Time. That's going to be 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Lindsey Wilson and Dakota Wesleyan, that'll be 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and then 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Marian and Shawnee State, and then 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Spring Arbor versus Campbellsville. That is the schedule. That is on deck. And again, just recap for the rest of you guys for the rest of the less than a week that we have left of the season, honestly. As of the time you guys are watching this, we have 2 episodes left. We're going to have one on Sunday that's going to semi-recap / preview the Final Four and the recap the Sweet 16 Elite 8. And then we will have one more episode post-championship on Tuesday that will kind of bookend and put a ribbon on the entire season, entire year, all of it from our side of things here. And we'll go into the offseason and talk about, the plans. But that's going to do it for this episode of Hoop Report. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch y'all in the next one.